And,
Who's Harry Heller?
Hello.
Harry Heller.
yeah.
Are you there, Harry?
Get a guess?
Harry Heller is an attorney for who's associated with Rawson. Harry, I don't know if you can hear me or if you're listening, but I think that you may be in here thinking this is a discussion of the regs rewrite for P&Z. That is not the case. This is an EDC meeting. You're welcome to stay, of course, if this is the one you meant to be in. Anyway, it's all good.
Let's convene at 6:31, Ash.
All right.
Our official call to order. First up is the approval of the June 17 minutes, the June 17th minutes.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay, do we have any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Reports. Okay, we don't have a treasure report because I will have to get the report and get it to Joanne. It wasn't in our mailbox. And
I don't think I've spent any money yet.
no, but like I said, I will get it and Joanne can have it because she keeps all of that stuff too.
Oh, yeah.
Update
all the
on,
math.
huh?
I'm sorry, I said I check all the math.
Okay. Update on businesses in town. What I have is what I sent you an attachment for the Cashmere Pet Grooming in Quinnebog. If you didn't get the attachment, let me know and I can resend it. There was only one in the box. In addition, I see that the T-Rex mini golf is open.
Yes, I heard. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I thought this might be a good play. First of all, does anybody else have any other business in town updates?
Yeah, did you know that Alicia Underhill opened up Airbnb? It's right on the airline trail.
Oh.
And she calls it the Tree House. So I saw it posted somewhere and saw a sign on Route 200 today. Just an FYI.
Oh, is this the Alicia Underhill? Is her husband's name Michael? Do they live in the house if you were headed towards 395 from my neighborhood on the left almost before you get to the highway?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, they came to P&Z a few months ago to approve that plan. It's two little tree house cabins. It's nifty. He had a really nice presentation. I hadn't made the connection until you said treehouse, actually.
Okay. So yeah, it's open. There was some notice about it, and I passed that info along to Richard Fries about the bicycling event in case somebody's looking for a place to stay. So
Yeah, great.
Trying to help out new business.
Yeah, and we didn't get a slip on that, so I didn't know about it, but that's good news.
Maybe then, how come we didn't hear about it then?
I don't know.
I saw it posted on some sort of social media platform, but I don't remember which one. But there was a photograph of it, and it could have been Thompson Together's, but it was somewhere, and I thought, oh great, it's right there on the airline trail, and that's what we're trying to push.
It's just you would think that we would get an adoption of trade name or something. That's what I meant.
Oh.
Yeah, me too. They need a permit, don't they, to do that?
Oh yeah.
They have approvals from P&Z for the use, which they came in for, I don't know, last summer or last fall. So I assume that they must be just about done with their construction work. I can't remember if they came in previously for a trade name. It might be something that you had back in late summer, early fall last year, Brian.
It's possible. I don't remember anything called Treehouse, but I go back and check. I have all those.
Yeah. There's no way we would have missed a business like this without talking about it. I mean, this is a pretty decent business, and we would have discussed it, I would think.
Well,
so I don't think we missed it.
Maybe the
We definitely spent a lot of time with P&Z, I can tell you that.
I think what it is that they're just now at the point that they're opening and new business partnership there. They may not realize that. She's been selling artwork from her barn, and he was doing solar installations, but office really from the house, and that was it. And now they've got this Airbnb, and it just seemed like a great idea when I saw it. So.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, I can go back and see if we have anything from the Underhill family. I just like that sometimes these get missed, and I don't know how unless they get filed late.
And the kind of we go approach them.
Somebody crossed their I's and dotted their T instead of crossing their T and dotting their I. No, the other way around.
Okay, moving on, Charlie. Anything else on businesses? Can't. No,
but you mentioned T-Rex, and we really have to make sure that they're hooked up onto that same link as the golf courses are on outdoor recreation. You and I talked about it, Brian, and I sent the message out when I spotted that, but I haven't really spoken to Tara or anybody else. But Tara, if you go to the outdoor recreation link off of the recreation page, which I've done because we're doing the QR code for the maps. So I looked at them and it's missing that. It just doesn't have that. And Brian was correct. He said, well, it's basically up to the business to get it done. But the other two golf courses, basically for-profit businesses, and so we're not opposed to advertising for-profit businesses on that link. Seems to me.
That is correct, but I believe Brian was also correct in saying that it was those businesses. They took it upon themselves to put themselves up there, but
okay. Well, reach out. What was the other place? Oh, David Eddy.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah?
This is Ken.
I can.
Hey, when you're touching on businesses, just as an FYI for you guys, 1405 Riverside Drive, the old Rosinski property, that has recently been sold as of May 15th. And the plans is roughly a 5-year plan to redo the stone mill, make it into restaurant space and retail space in that building over the course of the next 5 years. So that has potential, which will tie in great with 929 when that gets up and going for that whole corridor.
Thank you. That's good news too. Even
this is the one at Wilsonville Road?
Right at the river.
Wilsonville Road. Cool.
Yep.
That is a great old building. I'm delighted that somebody's going to do something with it.
Yeah, they're supposed to put a roof.
There's one more old stone building on the French River, but you really can only get at it by coming in from Webster. So, but that's our historically important building, I suppose. But I'm glad somebody's fixing up that one.
Yeah, they're going to put a roof on the stone mill. After August, they want to button it up for the winter because the building structurally sound.
Good.
Yeah, she came into Anna, who is one of the new owners, came into the informal Q&A we held last night for folks to dial in and ask questions about the proposed new regs. So she came in and well, she stayed in there the whole time. The commission asked her some questions about what she's got going on. She brought some stuff to our attention that, was probably missed was missed when we were drafting it, that, the commission may give some additional consideration to after the public hearing. So, it was fruitful.
Yeah, and Anna and her partner, Joe, are very big into commercial property, rental property throughout Massachusetts, and they're very aggressive. She's an attorney, he's a contractor, and they got a lot of good plans for that site. So we'll see what happens with that. So that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, that was a good connection we made yesterday.
Yeah, it's the same one that John hooked you up with on Monday. That was Anna.
Yep.
Now that we're speaking about that mill, I'm looking at the Downtown Mill Rehabilitation District map that came out the other day, and it really would not take much to connect it up to that other mill site. Would there be an advantage to them or to us?
Yeah, well, that was a part of the conversation, Charlie. The stuff that you see there in brown, the Downtown Mill Rehabilitation District, that is dependent on having public water and sewer. So I don't believe that extends that far. But we did discuss, there is another mixed-use district that's been created called the Thompson Corridor Development District, which when it was proposed, had its northern terminus at the Massachusetts line on 131, and then came down and picked up again on 12, where you take the right to head down to Putnam. What came out of the discussion last night was that it makes sense to extend the corridor district up both arms of that fork, the 12-131 fork, because that is, 12's the state road, and it takes you into Massachusetts the other way. It's a highly traveled road. It's already got some commercial properties on it. It's highly developed in terms of there's very little in terms of vacancy, but so this is just enabling, if we extend that zoning district up that other arm of the fork, that just enables the buildings that already exist to take advantage of the uses that would be allowed.
Okay.
So I would expect that you'll see that in the final iteration, although because last night was informal, no motions could be made or votes taken. So that any such decisions would have to be once the commission closes the public hearing and goes into their final deliberations for the final version of the draft. So it's all coming up fast now.
Yeah, it is. It seemed like hurry up and wait. Now it's boom.
Yeah.
Yep. Now it's just hurry up.
Yeah, one other thing I was going to throw in here, since I just got this yesterday, and it's this snazzy map for Putnam Woodstock. The visitor.
That's the same map that Charlene's been talking about.
Yeah.
I bet it is.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it looks like a good thing for the business association. Right now, looking at the map, there's no Thompson on it.
This way be dragons.
But, well, if businesses signed up to get on the map, that would put Thompson on the map.
I think we're about at the cutoff point for that, because we did talk about this once before. And we missed the cutoff point for getting Thompson on the map that year, obviously, but not
I
much.
thought we.
Yeah, so we've had a little back and forth, Jen Burkowski, Charlene, Renee, and I over the past few days. And it is similar in that the major design work has been done in terms of the actual map, but it is still possible for some organization, group of businesses, individual business in Thompson to essentially buy one of the two ad sizes, which would put whomever the lead organization, be it TBA, EDC, whatever, in the contact list for the next edition, so that stuff would get to us before the next edition closes, because that's what's happened now every time. So is that an agenda item? Are we on agenda, Brian Yacino?
I got this after the agenda was generated, so I figured I would throw it under new business and update on businesses and cover it that way.
Okay, fair enough. I just didn't want to take us too far off task.
No,
yeah, so there's a level that is, let me go into my email.
Well, there's the $300 level will give us a 2 inch by 1 inch advertisement on the map.
Right, it was a 300 and a 450.
450
300 is 2 by 1, and 450 is 2 by 2.
Yeah, it's those blocks around the edge.
Mm-hmm. Those are the 2 by 1s that you're talking about?
Well, yeah, the whole block is 2 by 2, and you can see the one right in the middle is 2 blocks. And that one's 1 block, and that's 1 block.
Oh, okay. I was scrolled away to my email, so I didn't see you holding it up. I just.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, there's
so those are 2 by 2s.
And these look like, here's 2 blocks, I think.
And so those would be 2 by 1s. Okay. So it was proposed in that email thread between Renee and me and Charlene and Jen Britkowski that it could be a good idea for EDC and TBA to split that cost. You've got $1,000 in the fiscal 21 for printing. So that would be a little bit of a stretch, but they are printed artifacts in the end, so I think you could make the justification. So you'd be in for either 150 or 225, depending on the level, if you wanted to make that split.
Yeah, and the alternative, Renee had the suggestion, I think it was Renee, asked if we could be an inset like Pomfret and Woodstock, where they have an inset.
Right, that's what we want in the next edition, but Jen had said that it's too late to sort of do the additional design to permit that.
Oh, okay. So how often is this done? Is this quarterly or?
No. I think it's an annual review of the artwork and the contributions.
Okay.
Because the one that we talked about the last time, it was fresh off the printer.
Yeah. Well, I don't mind getting in on this. Splitting with TBA would be good.
Yeah, I think that we should do it. And if TBA is having a bind and we've got the amount to cover it all, then we should do it anyway.
TBA has the funds. That I know.
Then we should split it with them.
Yeah.
Well, if TBA wants to cover the whole thing, that's fine if they've got the funds.
Oh.
I mean, it is a business promotional tool. The idea of splitting it was to take a piece of the control of it on the next edition in terms of, what gets featured. But it's perfectly fine with me if TBA takes that whole thing. It is a business thing. So
that's how I consider it too. I was thinking it's a business thing.
Well, that's your call, guys, however you want to handle it. Brian, if you want to suggest, if you think EDC should be a part of it, I would suggest a motion. If you think TBA will handle the whole thing, just state it for the record, and we'll leave you to take care of it.
Okay. What are your thoughts, Joe?
Sharing. I like sharing the cost.
What do you think, Charlie?
I thought I already made the motion that I wanted to do it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't think any of us heard you make the motion, Charlie.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I thought I did that before your last recap, but that's okay. I do now.
Okay,
I believed I said that we should do it, whether we covered the whole cost or half the cost. And then I was informed that they had the money. So I said, oh, well, okay, let them pay for it. But,
All right.
but
I mean, if you want, I'll.
affirmative.
I mean, if they're okay, like I said, I know they have the funds because I am on the TBA, so we get the treasurer's report. And I can see if they want to cover it, and if not, if everybody's okay with splitting, if that's what they want, we can do that. But I think don't we only have a couple days? I said July 17th.
You kind of got to decide.
Then should we make a motion that we cover half the cost of the involving Thompson in the Putnam area placemat? How's that sound?
All right, no, and no, if we do that, it's okay if it changes and they cover all the costs, right? We're approving to cover half.
Yeah, just say up to half, and then if TBA covers the whole nut, you're covered either way.
Okay, so we have a motion to cover up to half at visitors map. Do we have a second?
Yep, Joanne will second.
Okay, Joanne seconds. Any more discussion on this?
What are we actually going to put on this map? Like, is it going to have, it's just going to say Thompson Business Association? Is it going to have individual businesses? Who's going to decide what fits in this tiny little?
Well, there's no time to get individual businesses. All we're looking at now is to get in on it. What Tira described was just one of the ad spaces around the edge.
No, I get that, but what is it going to say?
Well, if it's both of us, it would be something, I imagine, something like sponsored by Thompson Business Association and Thompson Economic Development Commission.
Yes, but by coincidence, we have just gone through this with that map that Brian Lafredo has been putting out at the airline trail.
Yeah.
QR code now. All we need is one QR code on the Putnam map and a little bit of information about where Thompson is for people that can't read a QR code. And my gosh, they can fit those things small. Oh my word, they can fit those QR codes. I didn't realize that until I got a smartphone. Now, watch out, guys. I'm getting smarter.
That's actually a good idea, Charlie, because it could link to all the businesses. And you
thank you. I appreciate that.
No, it's a good idea.
So yeah,
All right, so
that's all we have to
so
do.
Renee and Charlene and I will probably have to come up with the actual copy based on that, because I think based on her working on those trails maps, she's got the visual file, the source files for all that stuff.
Good. Yeah, because you could put like 15 or 25 QR codes in that 1 inch square or 1 inch rectangle. You can fit a lot of them. They're small. You can make them real small.
Wow, I didn't think they could be that small. That's amazing.
Oh, no, you can make them real small. I've seen them now since I started looking around for them. So we're set for that. It was good coincidence that we worked that out for the maps that Brian's been putting out at the airline trail. I think that they're all ready to go. I got to a point that was beyond my technical capabilities, so somebody else took it over.
Okay, well, I'll see if I can get information that TBA will cover, at least up to half and preferably all. And I'll let Tira and Renee know. if that's okay. We're approved for that.
It's your landline, Mr. Celebrity.
I just shut it off.
I don't even have one.
Well, it's because of the Worldwide Car Club. I'm not giving up my cell phone.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
All right, next. Citizens' comments pertaining to agenda items. All is silent. Okay.
Well, Ken, technically you're a citizen, so this is your moment to shine.
I already gave my citizens' comment.
Thank you. And we appreciate that one too. That's a good one, Ken. Old business.
Hey guys, hold on 1 second. I have to call this out again. Harry, Madeline, and David, you guys are a week off. I think you guys are coming in for the P&Z public hearing. That is next Wednesday.
Okay. Sarah, was there a question and answer tonight?
That was last night.
Ugh.
Oh.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I could just tell you guys were in for that, and I didn't want to keep you guys hanging here waiting for something that wasn't happening.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Good night, Madeline.
Bye.
Drive safe.
Nice guy.
I know. I can't help it.
I know. All right. So, old business. I left in here progress for EDC alternate. And I did talk to someone a few days ago. It's someone who was on the EDC and actually asked me to come on back in 2009.
Wow.
She left promptly as soon as Brian Santos and I get on, but she's thinking about it.
And who was that person?
That was Donna Barrett.
Oh, really? Oh.
Oh, Baba. Huh. Cool.
Renee had a call today from Jim Bellavance on the heels of the letter that she sent out. She wrote a long letter about what branding specifically, but also EDC has been doing over the past few years to drive economic development, partly because of what came out of sort of the acrimony during the budget process. So although Board of Finance had their meeting canceled for this month, they did apparently get the packets because Jim Bellavance called her and had some interest. He could not make it tonight, but he may come in for next month. So it might be worth asking him if he would like to take that alternate position as well. He sounded pretty jazzed by some of the stuff that was described. It was, I think he just got her letter. There was a second one that I had sent over to TLGV that some people got copied on that was putting some dollar value on projects that we were doing just in fiscal 20 that tied into TLGV's mission. So that was kind of an interesting one. Conservatively, we either spent or leveraged funds, grant funds, to the tune of about $126,000
Wow.
in fiscal 20 for projects, most of which are still in progress in one way or another, that specifically dovetailed to TLGV's mission. And they had asked for that documentation, and it was very interesting to me when I finally started to do the tally. When I say that's conservative, what that means is we don't typically track volunteer hours unless we're tracking in-kind time for a grant and we need the documentation. We've just not been in the habit of doing it. So that was literally just funds that had been committed or funds that had been raised or grants that had been received and the projects they were put towards, in terms of just a very flat value. The real value of those is probably actually significantly higher, but very hard to quantify without bookkeeping voodoo.
Wow.
One more thing regarding the alternate is I'm going to have to talk to our missing member. because we may need another alternate. You remember in our guidelines, we have a guideline for meetings missed.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because we've had issues before where we had people who didn't come but didn't want to leave either. And it held us up from filling a slot.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to find out why our member is missing. Maybe it's Zoom. So I will take care of that. And if that's the case, then Brian moves into a regular slot and we still have room for 2 alternates. Because Brian is still filling in as an alternate.
Yeah.
Jim,
Brian,
I asked Jim about years ago, so I'm glad that he's finally resurrecting his interest again, because I approached him a long, long time ago. So I'm glad he wants to come on board.
who's that?
You approached whom, Joanne? Jim?
Jim Bellaband. Yeah, years.
Yeah.
Years.
Oh,
Well, it's not clear that he wants to be the alternate, but that was, based on his interest today that he expressed in the work, not necessarily in the join. If he does, in fact, come in next month, I would say that would be an appropriate time. Although if you see him, Joanne, I would certainly suggest to him that opening, there's at least one opening there. And if Donna Barrett comes in, that's fine too. But yeah, I mean, we want more interest, not less. So even if it's that he starts attending meetings now and then gets interested later, that's fine. I mean, however it works out.
yeah.
Well, Donna was on the board 10 years ago when I first started. So, but I'll stop by and see Jim. His shop is right down the street from my house.
Oh, good.
Right.
Okay. New business. What I have down here.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
I had considered joining your EDC, you know that. We
Yeah.
were trying, from being, on it ex officio for the last 4 years. If it is, I'd rather see people that want to get involved other than the core group that we have. And you know my passion for it. But if we need it for numbers and stuff, I have no problem in going on officially, and could always resign later if we get somebody else, so that way we keep meetings going and don't have issues with that.
Okay, that's great, Ben. That's
okay.
Because I mean, nobody's banging down our door. We're putting our feelers out, and yeah, we appreciate it. I made a note, and we'll keep you informed. That's all.
And that's great.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, for new business, I have RFP to repair the foundation of 65 Main. That was from a note from Tira. So, there, Tira.
Well, since those funds, I mean, we identified them in the budget for this fiscal year. They have a line item now, funds for 65 Main, whatever those funds happen to be. So the way we broke it out, we assigned 8 of the regular budget. There's $1,000 that was given last November by Bank Hometown specifically for that project, so that's 9. And then the grant reimbursements, we received the $5,000 from Eastern Connecticut Association of Realtors, and very shortly I'll be closing out the TLGV grant for the community garden. So those grant funds, none of them will show up in the treasurer's report, but I was very clear with Orla that those needed to be socked away just for use on these projects, because otherwise all that money that we gave up, in the spirit of being helpful in the times of COVID, that would have really crippled us. But this enables us to move forward.
Yeah, cool.
So essentially, I just need you guys to vote to approve it. The back of the envelope estimate I had from Jason LaValle when he did the walkthrough with me was about $10,000 to do that foundation work. I I could do it as a bid not to exceed. I'd rather just see what the real bids are when I go out. Because if I do it as a bid not to exceed, they are all going to equal $10,000. I'll tell you that right now. That's just the way it works.
Yeah.
That is the way it works. So who else are you bringing in on this for quotes?
Well, it'll be an RFP, which means so it'll be an RFP, which means it will be publicly posted just the same way as the marketing thing was. Now that $5,000 marketing RFP brought in 12 responses from 4 different states. We're not going to get 12 responses from 4 different states, but we certainly could get a good, strong handful. One of which I hope is actually Jason, because I think he's just really good to work with. But
yeah, he is.
But whatever, we don't know who's going to bid and what it'll cost. But that's the ballpark that I'm using.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve up to $10,000 to move forward with restoration of the foundation at 65 Main Street.
A second.
Okay, so this motion is to put out an RFP.
Yeah.
Not to exceed $10,000.
No, you've already got the $10,000.
Oh, okay. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we're all set for the RFP.
All right, I will write it before I leave on vacation at the end of next week.
Vacation? Oh my goodness.
You get a vacation?
Yeah.
I do, although I'm not going far. Well, we're going to Maine for a couple of days, but mostly I'll be sitting in this house.
I think you deserve one though. So.
We've already been in the house for 3 months, right?
Can you take your production and go stream with it worldwide?
What production would that be?
Friday night.
Oh.
Friday night.
I can't prevent anybody from live streaming it, no matter how much I'd like to.
Okay, moving on. Under progress reports, we have number 1, the marketing consultant to continue with branding strategy. We had a meeting, we cast our votes, we selected Sullivan and Leshane, and a contract has been signed.
Some of us, including Brian, had a first sit down with an actual live sit down with Sullivan and Leshane. What was that, last Thursday, Brian Lafredo? You're on mute.
Probably. I couldn't tell you without looking at a calendar.
Well, anyway, it was. Why don't you take this instead of letting me yak all the time, Lafredo?
It was actually, no, it was earlier in the week because it was the day of the Board of Selectmen meeting, because I remember we had our meeting and Amy commented that when they took the vote, it was just a formality because she knew we had already had a meeting. So, yeah, it was last Tuesday. Yeah, I mean, I'm not as eloquent as Tara, and my memory isn't as good, but it was just basically getting to know us and what they needed to look at, things that they might not have been aware of. I don't have the list in front of me, that even the meeting was well planned out as to what topics we're going to cover and what we needed to discuss. And we have a follow-up coming. What's that, more of a general meeting on Friday, Tara?
So Friday, and this is essentially the first deliverable from their contract. Sullivan and Leshane is hosting a focus group. It was a focus group by invitation, so it was the 5 of us who attended the first sit down last Tuesday, I guess that Brian is saying.
Yep.
And then we all put our heads together and sort of came up with 5 somewhat new names. I'm sorry, 7 somewhat new names, although some old names as well, who we thought were kind of A-listers, people that we wanted to be more involved, who we think are articulate and creative thinkers. So the 7, and actually that ended up expanding to 8 because I got a late call. The 8 people who are going to join me, Renee, Lafredo, Charlene, and Leslie on Friday morning are Tommy Angelo, Kai's Orr, Rob Wurge, Judy Rondo, Steve Lewis, Joe Perotti. Who am I missing? I'm missing somebody. Oh, Andrew Zimmerman from Lord Thompson Manor, and I'm still missing one. But it was a total of 13 people who are going to be there. So it's going to be a focus group, very guided by Brian and Dan from Sullivan Lashane to sort of start to flesh out the action plans and the more expanded branding and marketing strategies. So they have us on a 60-day timeline, which I think we all recognize might be a little aggressive, but still they're interested in working through all this stuff quickly with us. This isn't going to be another 2 years of monthly meetings saying the same old stuff over again. These guys want to move fast, and I think that's going to be pretty cool.
Good. Okay. Next up was just to touch on Community Day. I wanted to start talking about Business of the Year, but Community Day is still up in the air as far as what it will look like.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not, but Leslie's here. Leslie, are you listening? You want to come in and give the Community Day update?
Yeah, sure, I can report. So we are in the process of scaling back Community Day. So still doing an event, but on a smaller scale, just because we don't know what the restrictions will be as far as crowd size. The other piece was that we know that the school was not going to be performing. We felt like the bounce houses were not going to be a sanitary activity. So when we started to take some of those family events away, we looked at scaling back the whole event. So we're pivoting the event for this year only to be an art focus. And one of the reasons we focused on that topic or that area was we were not able to have our community art show in April. So it's a 2-part event. And the other piece was that we had a very successful add-on to the Community Day last year, which was the Upcycle art show piece. So we are doing the Upcycled art show component, and then we are opening it up to only artists and makers, crafters, artisans, fair only for vendors. So it'll be a much smaller scale. We won't be having, business booths or food trucks, or we've arranged with Community Fire. They're doing a fundraiser event that day. So we would sort of encourage folks to go get food at local restaurants that are open and up at Community Fire and provide that information to attendees, but we won't be having food on site or any sort of interactive game components. The Community Day Committee has not decided what to do with Volunteer of the Year. There's some talk of just maybe postponing that and adding it to a larger event at another time, because it wouldn't be, the sort of grand presentation. There will be no stage at this new event. So I think as far as EDC and Business of the Year, that would be up to you all to decide how to, honor that business and in what way, and, in a different way. But we will not be having dignitaries there on that day, or, the sort of traditional ceremonies that we've had in the past.
Okay, yeah, we could wait and see how the month looks, but I wouldn't mind waiting and do it at the same time as Volunteer of the Year. My daughter's going to be disappointed because she was looking forward to setting up her booth.
What does she do?
Foreign books. She had the kids' books.
Yeah.
So it's not craft. It's
Yeah, it was a challenge to sort of think about. And when we were meeting as a committee, we kept thinking, oh, well, what if we also just do this piece? And then what if we do this piece? And then it started just forming into Community Day, but there were big components of the day that obviously would be missing. So It's unfortunate. This is kind of, you know, we're kind of making the best out of a crummy situation, or trying to at least, to see if this goes. And then I think with Volunteer of the Year and Business of the Year, hopefully if things, you know, trend in the right direction, we can look at maybe doing something, you know, in the spring. That's another kind of event, you know, with the whole community, honoring our businesses and fire departments and civic organizations, you know, in a way, to do those, you know, formal presentations. I don't think that, you know, the great thing about Business of the Year and Volunteer of the Year at Community Day is there's a presence, you know, there's a lot of folks. So, and I think that's important. I don't think it should be like, you know, a small thing. You know, you want a lot of people to be there. You want the press. It's great when Winnie is there. We're not having Winnie at this event. You know, you want Winnie to be there and to interview the folks. And so, yeah, we'll keep you in touch. And obviously everything's changing all the time. But my hope would be that we do some kind of other community event in the spring, you know, looking at a different aspect, you know, and really involving business and fire and fire departments and that sort of thing. So, I mean, it was hard because we wanted to, we thought, well, what if we did different events on that day in different parts of town, you know? And so this is going on here and this is going on here. But the great thing about that day is everyone at one location, united in that, and that we felt like we weren't prepared to plan an event of that scale at this time with restrictions.
I have no argument with you. It's so hard to this year. Like I said, I'm doing it with my car show, my car club stuff, even if work is affected.
So I definitely will put it out there to the committee about starting to brainstorm, you know, spring, and really the main focus of that would be to look at honoring, you know, Business of the Year, Volunteer of the Year, and maybe we're doing something that's just specific to businesses and civic organizations, you know, at that time. So
yeah, maybe when we dedicate our new pop-up village next year.
Good idea.
Indeed,
okay. So. Thank you, Russ. Yeah, the next up, I put pop-up village on here because Kira mentioned it in a budget conversation. And besides that, I actually have pictures that I could forward to people. I was looking at a pop-up village in Yarmouth. And it's just what we want to do. It's people setting up and they're selling their flowers and they're selling their crafts. And it's well visited in Yarmouth. I know it's
I think Charlene sent us pictures of that same one last year. Hold on one second. Let me, I'm actually trying to text or to message Dave Eddy on Facebook right now. Give me a second to come back over to the screen.
Yeah, I know it was on the Cape. I know that the pictures that she sent were from the Cape, so maybe it's probably.
Yeah, I remember that clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look like, you know, what we're looking at from Eddie.
All right, I just messaged him,
interesting.
so maybe I'll
get
it in luck.
There was a couple of different sections that had the little buildings. That's all. And
so just so you know about those pop-up villages, so again, with the adjustment based on the cuts that were made by finance, we had agreed to just put $3,000 towards that. In the scramble at the end of the fiscal year, I had money in categories that was not otherwise spent in the planning and development office budget. In other words, my office, not any of the commissions, that I encumbered over to Dave. That was another $2,000. Oh, and we had agreed to put those extra funds in. I had told you guys that was $2,000. I was wrong when I told you that because I had forgotten to count in the money that was committed to the NIPS. So it was one. So it was the $3,000 that was actually in the budget, one additional $1,000 encumbered to use up the end of the fiscal year funds for EDC, and $2,000 out of my budget. So we've actually got 6 to put into those, which means we could get up to 2 of those little sheds depending on what his costs are. I have been texting back and forth with him over the last couple of days to see if his schedule will allow him to make one of those for the abbreviated community day, because it is going to be still a vendor fair, and you know, we could be starting to put those things into their permanent homes so people could get used to that idea of that stretch of the park having those sheds there. So I'm still waiting to hear back from him if he thinks that's realistic. But it's moving forward one way or the other. If we can't get it for October, we'll revisit it. You know, this commission can revisit it as to when we want to put it in motion in probably early 21, and you know, start to talk about how we would solicit vendors to be there for a full season.
Yeah. Okay. For the train wreck site, we did everybody hear the winning songwriter competition song?
No.
I heard them. Who won? Who won? Who won? I heard
There
them
was-
all, but I didn't catch
There was
them.
Marc Moriarty with Eastbound Train on a Westbound Track.
The solo guitarist.
Was
The
that the
solo
couple?
guitarist.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was the couple, Joanne.
And they
Oh,
were on
yeah?
tracks. It was a real catchy tune.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
were standing on the tracks a lot of time, and she was dancing around.
Hey, yeah.
There,
Oh, that
there was
was
a
It was
couple of
like
good
the
ones.
wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. It just went on and on.
Yeah, but they
It's
did a
good.
great job.
Yeah,
They did
yeah,
what we
well,
wanted
and
to do.
I couldn't finish anything, so I should have no grounds to pick on anybody who did.
They told the story. That's what
They
we
told
wanted.
the story. That's what was endearing about the whole thing to me. They told the story, and like Gilligan's Island, 3 hours. And
Just like that.
Maybe it can be abbreviated.
maybe.
But,
Yeah,
yeah,
like a minute song, that's for sure.
Well, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, so their
Also-
obligation is,
yeah.
What's that?
Yes.
so their obligation, the artist and the two involved studios, which is my old radio station, WICN in Worcester, and Jeff Bolte for the video, they are obliged because of NPS budgetary requirements to have all that stuff wrapped up. The award was the recording
Gosh.
of the song and the commensurate video. That's got to be wrapped by the end of August. They can use it however they want. They are obliged to also give copies to us to use however we want in whatever promotional means we want. And we can share it with National Park Service. We can share it with the Airline Trail. We can share it with Connecticut Deep. So that's the piece that we get out of that.
Yeah.
Right. So
That was great.
it's worth something. Also on the train wreck, tomorrow morning I'm going to meet with Elliot Webb, the video photographer. The state has approved us to be able to fly the drone, and they just wanted to know when is it going to happen. So we're going to go over and do the shoot, and really what it's going to focus on, he says 5 minutes he's going to produce. We're going to have two separate 360-degree sweeps from 500 feet or however many feet they can go up. And the first one will look at the trail. It will look at the highways. It will look at the cities and towns that you can see from up there. And that kind of puts us into perspective of where is Thompson in all of this. Now, some of what we really want to show can only be done by using Google Earth or whatever, but we can show a lot of the close-up on that first sweep. And it will take 2 minutes to do that sweep and 2 minutes to do another sweep, which will be, how do these forests all connect? How do the rivers and lakes and streams all support wildlife? Is there camping? Is there outdoor, clean and green, that kind of stuff? And then 1 minute of zipping up and down through the train station site and heading off towards Webster and heading off towards Thompson and heading off towards Boston and just moving back and forth as if everything was in place and you were a serious bike rider and just riding right through. And he's going to simulate the foggy morning when the train wreck happened. So he's going to simulate the train heading north on that at the express rate. It was doing like almost 50 miles an hour when it crashed into the two freight trains. And, that's going to, when we get to that point in the timeline, just cut and insert all the stuff that Joe Iamartino and Paul have put together on the train wreck and make sure that is the stepping off point. This is a train that was moving by at 50 miles an hour and crashed. And here's all the information we have about the trains and the people. And oh my gosh, they never recovered the freight business off towards Southbridge from that point. All that stuff is documented. It's really good and easy for us to tie into. And we'll look at all that tomorrow.
Great.
Sounds good.
Okay, next up we have, where is it? Interest in the 6-month project to update the plan of conservation and development.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm putting my team together, guys. This month is just that. I'm just trying to solicit interest. The POCD is a document which is by statute the responsibility of planning and zoning, but it will be a much stronger document if that has input from a variety of sectors within the town. I've probably got about 10-ish people who have indicated some interest. I'm starting to put a skeleton draft together, a couple pages a day, trying to give some direction in the various topics that the document would cover. Some of them are required by statute, and some of them are just more aspirational or philosophical. And the document is exactly what it purports to be. It is a guidance plan for a 10-year period, dealing with issues of conservation and conservation in a broad sense, and development also in a broad sense. So economic development, land development, and discussing issues and challenges, aspirations, and then action plans. So if anybody on this commission is interested in being a part of that, just shoot me a quick email and I will add you to my list. And again, right before I go on vacation, probably on the Friday the 24th, so a week from Friday, I'll send out one big group email to start scheduling meetings. I figure there'll be at least monthly for 6 months, and then some additional splinter off meetings for groups working on some of the subtopics. For example, economic development would be a subtopic. Outdoor recreation would be a subtopic. Some of those will intersect more than others. So it's going to be kind of a fluid group. And by the end of the year, we have to have a complete draft. So it's going to be a lot of work in a very compressed period of time of 6 months. But it's nowhere near the complexity of, for example, the zoning rewrite. This is much more philosophical, and then just sort of creating a list of 10-year goals.
Yeah, with an interest, I read the last one. I didn't print it out because it's 48 pages, but it's interesting, and there is an EDC component, and agricultural and educational, and covers just about everything that we try to do in the town.
Yeah, and the last one was okay. We discussed it a little bit because the format of last night's Q&A was so informal, we had some downtime. So I had asked Bob Werge, who was on the commission at the time that the last one was produced, you know, how it had gone. And apparently the planner at the time, Kevin Kennedy, more or less just wrote it and got some input. But it sounded to me like it was more of a one-man show with pieces added. I would like it to be less of a one-man show and more of a, this is what we all really mean, because I think then the document has more, it just has longer legs. You know, more people would be invested in it, more people would be able to carry the ideas that get articulated back into the work of the volunteer boards.
Okay. So we'll let Kira know. The wayfinding plan, the IOB-Y, we had the June 23rd virtual community workshop, which I missed. Is there any update on that other than?
Oh, did you not see the live poll results? I did post them on the EDC website. They are there so that you can look at them anytime.
I may have missed them.
Okay. So they are there. I put them on that. I think you will find them if you look on the left-hand side, that blue sidebar with all the click-through items there. It was good. It was more not so well attended as we would have liked, I think, but I think Zoom fatigue might have been a factor. But still thoughtfully done. Kelsey did a great job with the live polling. We do have the results of those. I would expect that by the end of this week, I should see additional material from her with the compilation of the online and paper surveys, because she didn't incorporate that into the live polling from the workshop. If we don't see it this week, I would expect next week. She is now working on their deliverable with the report, starting to draft that. So we should see an actual document sometime in the next month or two, I would think, from her. She checks in with me about once a month.
Okay.
And Sullivan and Lashane is fully prepared to work with them to make sure that those efforts dovetail and we don't end up with things that are mismatched.
Good. Yeah, that's important.
All right. Next is Nips for Holiday Cheer. There was another collection on Saturday, this past Saturday?
Yep. Yeah, a little lighter than the two previous. Obviously, the big one was the first one with the almost 30,000 and then 10,000 the second month. We had just over 4,000, 4,100 and change. We officially have two more collections scheduled. Three Tiers for Connecticut, who is also represented by Sullivan and Lashane, did donate another 1,000 to carry us through the end of the program. So we'll collect again on Saturday, the 1st of August, and Saturday, the 5th of September. And then one of the things we will do at the Community Day, or the event formerly known as Community Day, is we will distribute the gift cards at that time, because we'll have all the final tallies. I'll have had time to get in touch with everybody to see where they want the cards to, and we'll have some good data. The other piece about that, again, since Sullivan and Lashane is also the publicist or marketing consultant with Three Tiers for Connecticut, I'm going to work with them and May Flexer's office about that final piece, which is, for lack of a better term, the publicity stunt. What is it? Are we putting them in the box truck and driving them to the Capitol? How are we using not just the data, but the visual of 40, 50, 60,000 NIPS to emphasize how important it is to take them off the roads? like that.
That's a great idea. I like
Yeah.
that. I did a little bit of walking today, and there's a lot of nips. We just have to find some way to get people excited about picking them up again.
I expect that the next one in August will probably be somewhat light like this one. It's hot, people are away.
Yeah.
But once people know the last one is at hand, I expect the September one will be maybe not quite as busy as the first one, but I certainly think we're likely to see 10,000 plus, maybe, you know,
It's also possible
maybe
that
up to
people-
20,000.
It's also possible that people can be taught to save a couple of bags full of these in their garage or somewhere and bring them all in at once. If we can excite them with the visual splash that we intend to make. I like the idea about taking them and dumping them in or in front of the House of Representatives.
I don't know about dumping them, but
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
neither do I.
I don't think there will be any
realize
dumping
that wasn't
exactly.
the right word. That wasn't the right word, but I was on a roll.
Okay.
it's like dying to get out of the house. We have to be careful.
Yeah.
We could jump them on Tom Road, Charlie.
No, please, no. There were quite a few of them, though. I was not disheartened, but I wasn't too. A lot of already with the 5-cent deposit that were out there too. So people are just careless about the value that they're throwing at the roadsides and the impact of it.
Yeah, we can't really solve the underlying problem of why they end up on the roads, right? It's because
Nope, we can't.
people are drinking and driving and they're throwing them out the window so they don't have open containers. We can't solve that problem.
Nope.
The problem that we can posit a solution for is what to do with them once they end up on the roads, and that is to assign value to them so that somebody will pick them up. And that's what we're trying to accomplish. Gary O has been a super booster for this, by the way. He came to the the June collection date and did a video. And the last time I talked to him, he mentioned to me that video that he shot that day has had something like 15,000 views on their Facebook page. So that is that's some pretty good. It's not exactly unearned media since it was actual media but it's similar to unearned media in that it was just like a one-off for him, for us. But it's, it's gaining some attention. What would be really great would be as if other communities replicate it. Who knows if they will, but it's not like it's a difficult thing to put in place, right? Come up with a little bit of funding, come up with a plan, and get her done.
What can we do to get people to see it? How can we continue what the radio station had with their posts? Have we
you could go on Winnie's page, find it, and share it. I mean, that's how those things get broadcast.
Okay.
I've been sharing. It's an event on Facebook, and I've been sharing it as we're getting close to the collection date, maybe like a week out. Also because we were unsure of if we were going to have a collection date. So we have been posting. Tira's been doing press releases at the end of each collection and sending that to Winnie and to I think Norwich as well, and putting it on the website. So just because again we were the length of the program was uncertain, so we want folks to know, well, this is how many we collected, we got more money, we can do another month. But yeah, Charlie, I could probably send something in an email. That's what we did when we did April cleanup. We also introduced this program, and that hasn't happened since we did the original April cleanup email. So I can certainly do an email blast to our residents again, saying the program's still happening, and when we're going to give the gift presentations. The hope is that if we're giving those gift cards away at the October 3rd event, that Gary O might pique his interest and he might come out that day, kind of unprompted, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Leslie and I have been talking about casually at the office, although we certainly can't do it at this scale, for another year, meaning a multi-month thing, making it a permanent part of April cleanup. And what just occurred to me during this conversation is, you know, if we're moving a community event into the spring because of what we lost due to COVID, that something more like an Earth Day, Community Day, which has that volunteerism aspect and also the business aspect to make it more mission focused in terms of the greening, the cleanup.
Right. The environmental aspects of it are there.
Yeah, Tira, we'll chat with that and talk to Thompson together. April, you know, is with the April cleanup, and then we also have the community art show. If April is looking good and things are great in, you know, in the world, and we're moving forward with events in somewhat modified ways, but I think April is a big month in Thompson for events, and we have the opportunity to sort of combine some of those, or you know, put out a whole April calendar of things, you know, going on in Thompson in that month, including the cleanup and the NIPS program and stuff. So.
Yeah, Leslie and I both love to get all the bang out of our bucks that we can with events.
Combine them all.
Okay, moving on. 6 months of suffrage. The next event is Friday. I don't know who's performing, but some snaky thing, something.
You want to take it, Terry? I can take it. I mean, I think everyone.
No, I do nothing but talk at these. It's like it's.
Okay, I think everybody knows. This Friday, Tira Penn and the Snakes of Amazonia are performing 6:30. The location is changed. It's on the Riverside Park baseball field to allow for more social distance. Bring a blanket, bring a lawn chair. 6:30. Bring your dinner. Get it. You know, go to Milltown. Stop by.
Do you need any help? Do you need any volunteers?
I think we're good. So the suffragist committee is coming out early to set up some promotional signs and things that we had made. We're handing out voter registration cards. Yeah, I think we'll be fine. I would suggest if you want to, you know, secure your spot to come early. Before COVID, we would have people come, you know, 30, 45 minutes early to get their spot. And I think that people will definitely do the same. So I anticipate people starting to sit down at 5:45, 6 o'clock to be able to get where they want to sit and have their blanket and their place. And yeah, so there's going to be a lot of parking all along Riverside Park. You can park there, you know, and then it's the trailer and stage is going to be just kind of on the other side of the circle where the flagpole is.
And we could park at the library.
You could park at the library and walk over, or the town hall and walk over, or there'll be plenty of parking along, you know, along the gazebo walkway there as well. And then if you're not able to come on Friday, we're doing back-to-back concerts. There's another concert on Saturday night, same time, same location, 6:30, and that is Marc Mandeville and Ran Richards, and they are American folk country duo, like stand-up bass, harmonica, banjo, based out of I think Webster, right? I can't remember. Just over the line.
I think they're from Webster.
Yeah, so they're very familiar with Thompson. They said they ride their bikes around Riverside Park, and so they're excited to play as well. So we're doing some live music. Really excited.
Yeah, Dan was in Monday, and he wasn't even aware of it. So I let him know there was a concert going on, and he might see some extra business. He was like, Friday's already my busiest day.
Yeah, so Friday and Saturday. So yeah, I know we had reached out to Our Father's Table to see if they would consider doing dinner on those nights. And so they have those dates. But I will, Brian, that's a good point. I will mention to the, you know, I can do that and make a quick phone call or email just to mention to those businesses that we're, you know, going to have that on Friday and Saturday and what those weekends are. So if they want to do some kind of special or promotion.
Good.
Okay, next up is the zoning regs revision update, if we have any.
Well, we're almost done. I mean, we're going to have new regulations sooner rather than later at this point. All of the informal discussion groups are finished. 1 week from tonight, there will be a public hearing opening the three folks who are in here, well, Harry's still in, but Madeline, David Held, and Harry Heller thought tonight was last night, I think. But that, so just for whatever, if you want to be a part of the public hearing process at all, come in, make any statements of support or any statements of concern, any observations. That is 1 week from tonight. We will open it. At the end of that evening, we will adjourn the public hearing but not close it. We are leaving the public hearing open to receive written comments for those who couldn't dial into the Zoom meeting and don't have the opportunity, obviously, to attend the meeting in person. So that will be held open until the 27th of July, which is the regular meeting of Planning and Zoning. At that point, the public hearing will be closed and the commission has the opportunity to discuss. They may or may not actually vote on them that night. They may opt to carry the discussion into a separate special meeting. That's going to depend on what kind of comments they receive. But, we're within 2, 3, 4 weeks tops of having this thing closed out and a brand new book of regulations that is built on inclusion and economic development and conservation and all kinds of stuff. A general improvement, I think, in all regards.
I think that sounds right.
Okay, the final, I left, I don't know if we have any updates on the NatChub Epic on August 9th.
I haven't heard anything. The last that I heard was that he intends that to be a 2-day event and that he's still on track for it. There's nothing that I need to do at this point, so I just wait until he says, hey, can you see about this?
Okay, so at our next meeting, we'll know how it went.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess so, huh?
We sure will.
All right, next up, comments by commission members.
Well, I'm not really a commission member, but I will toot my own horn for a second. I did receive notification just today that we were awarded a $15,000 grant by the Department of Housing to develop an affordable housing plan for Thompson to bring us into better compliance with state requirements. So that, I do actually think that ties to economic development. So it's not irrelevant. Housing choice and housing affordability are a cornerstone of a thriving economy. So hopefully we'll have that in hand soon as well.
What are you going to do with that?
What do you mean, what am I going to do with it?
Hang it on the wall.
So it's specifically meant to hire a consultant to work on that plan. I become an instant expert on a lot of topics to write grants and stuff. But in this case, the topic is sufficiently weighty and there are, it's a complex one. So that 15 grand will, again, allow the consultant, if there's any additional costs. Essentially, the Department of Housing was dying to throw this money at cities because it's been a problem that so many communities do not have the required 10% rate affordable housing. Thompson is one of those deficient communities. So in March, they put out the world's simplest grant application. I think it took me all of 10 minutes to fill it out. And they more or less said, if you fill this out and don't screw it up, we're giving this money away first come, first serve.
Wow.
To do just that, to develop that plan. So I always knew we were going to get this. I just didn't know when they were going to make the announcement. And it was announced just today.
Are we limited on who we can have do the work for us?
Because it's a government grant, I have to go through an RFP process.
Okay.
And I'm waiting on some additional guidelines from Department of Housing before I write that RFP. because at the state level, they are working on a manual or guidebook of some kind as well. And I believe what they want is for that to be published, for the grantees to then take those guidelines and their funds, apply the funds in whatever appropriate way, and then have a plan. And that's got to be produced within the course of the fiscal year. So it'll be a quick turn, or not as quick as the POCD, but a relatively quick turn.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah. Are we all set? Any more comments? Our next meeting, August 19th. Boy, I would love to have a real meeting instead of this virtual stuff, but.
Well, we've had a real meeting last week, so another committee did, so why can't we next time?
That meeting was pretty anomalous, Joanne, and I mean, it's probably not out of the question. The problem is public participation has to be possible. So technically, that meeting probably should not have occurred under those circumstances. And that would be the same here. But yes, we could probably get away with it. I'll be honest, I actually prefer the Zoom meetings. I prefer being able to have the discussion in my home, but I will, of course, be wherever you need me to be.
Okay. Yeah, well, and for now, we'll keep it location to be determined, and more than likely it'll be a Zoom meeting, but it is August 19th, 6:30.
Okay.
At this point, I would like to let us into adjournment at 7:52 p.m.
All right.
Okay.
Stay safe, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Good meeting, everybody.
I'll see some of you on Friday or Saturday at the concert.
Good luck.
Yeah.